A woman tears off her own breast. She holds it above her head and she throws it at a city, and the city burns. Her name is Kanagi, and by the end of this episode you will understand exactly why a Tamil city burning to the ground in the 2nd century CE is one of the most precise answers to the question of who Kali actually is. But first, we need to talk about a British Army officer, a Victorian novel, and the most successful character assassination in colonial history. In 1836, a British colonial administrator named William Sleeman published a report that would reshape Western understanding of Kali for the next 200 years. The report described a secret murder cult operating across India, strangling travelers as ritual sacrifice to their goddess. Sleeman called them the Thuggi. He named Kali their patron goddess. The British government responded with the Thuggi Suppression Act of 1836. Mass arrests followed, thousands of convictions. Sleeman was decorated, and Kali, ancient, complex, and philosophically vast Kali, she was officially registered in the Western imagination as the goddess of a murder cult. The question no one asked at the time: what did Sleeman actually have to gain from this? The answer is a straightforward one. The Thuggi suppression campaign gave the East India Company legal justification to expand police powers across territories that it was still consolidating. It positioned the British as civilizing protectors, saving Indians from their own religion, and it systematically targeted Shakta communities whose power base was organized around fierce goddess worship, and broke them apart under the cover of law enforcement. 3 years later, in 1839, a British officer named Meadows Taylor published a novel called Confessions of a Thug. It was a sensation. Queen Victoria even read it. It went through edition after edition, and it cemented the image of Kali as a bloodthirsty, skull-drinking, murder cult goddess in Victorian popular culture. You've seen the inheritance of that novel, you just don't know it. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1984. A villain who rips still-beating hearts from human chests and offers them to Kali Ma. A screaming goddess with a blood-red face, a secret underground murder cult. Steven Spielberg was not making this up. He was drawing almost directly from Meadows Taylor's framing, which was itself drawing from William Sleeman's manufactured campaign report. A colonial administrator's political tool became a Victorian novel, which then in turn became a Hollywood blockbuster. And somewhere in that chain, 200 years of Kali theology got buried underneath. So let's uncover it. Modern neuroscience has identified a network in the brain called the default mode network. It is the neural system responsible for your sense of continuous self, the narrator inside your head that wakes up every morning and remembers who you are, replays the past, and simulates the future. It maintains a story of, I am this person, living this life, with this history. But underneath that system sits something much older and faster and much more primitive, operating almost entirely outside your conscious awareness. This is the autonomic nervous system, the interoceptive network constantly scanning the internal state of the body, heartbeat, breath, muscle tension, hunger, fear, grief, rage, the tremor in your chest before you consciously know you're anxious, the sinking feeling in your stomach before your mind has found words for it. This system does not care about the story you tell yourself. It does not know your name. It just responds. And sometimes what rises from below becomes too powerful for the narrative self to contain. In the 1980s, the neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a study that shook the very foundations of what we understand about free will. Libet wanted to find out whether our mind prepares for a movement before we are consciously aware of it, and so he and his team set up an experiment. He sat participants in front of a clock and asked them to flex their wrist whenever they felt the urge, and while they did, he monitored their brain activity with electrodes. He found that the brain began preparing for the movement approximately 500 milliseconds before the participant reported becoming aware of the decision. His study showed that the brain begins preparing for an action before a person is consciously aware of deciding. The system moves first and consciousness catches up later to tell the story. Libet concluded that the unconscious system initiates, but consciousness retains what he calls the veto, the ability to interrupt, to refuse, to say no at the last moment. Then the question becomes, what exactly is the you that is doing the willing? The answer to this lies thousands of years earlier. Tantra did not need Libet, it had already drawn the map. Parvati was the child of the Himalayas, of the mountain monarch Himavanta, whose skin was as white as ice. But Parvati's complexion was not like the snow that crowned those peaks, it was like the soil. And yet, Shiva was laughing. Kali, he called her. Parvati had taken it to heart and walked away. Later, she walked up to Shiva as Gauri. Her body was whiter than the icy forehead of Kailash. She knew he was going to ask how she had so utterly transformed. "Where's Kaushiki?" the destroyer inquired. "Isn't that what Brahmadev has named her, the dark one who has risen from your skin? But for me, she will always be Kali." Kali, Kali, Kali. She was hearing that name again and again. Was her brain repeating it, or Kailash echoing it? She, not me. You were not calling me Kali. You were calling her Kali, the dark form which was a part of me. Yes, the other facet of you. The grey ash that I smear on myself blends the hues of both Gauri and Kali. Kali denotes the supreme unmanifest, the darkest recesses of the womb from which leaps forth the light of life, the black in which merge all the colors of the universe. She denotes the unencumbered, the unconscious, the untamed, the kundalini that lies coiled within all of us. She is Mahakali, the feminine aspect of Mahakal, of time transcendental. Just as you domesticate, she will destroy, consume all that is chaotic, and dare everyone to confront what they are concealing. Now, let's look at that again with what we just learned about the nervous system. The default mode network is Gauri, organized, luminous, socially integrated, the story of the self that presents itself to the world. The autonomic system, the interoceptive surges that move before conscious awareness, the kundalini rising through the vagal pathway before the narrator catches up, that is Kali. Shiva doesn't call Parvati Kali to wound her. He calls her Kali because he can perceive what she cannot yet see about herself. He is the witness consciousness, naming the part she has disassociated from. That is what Carl Jung spent his career describing. The tradition encoded it as a conversation on a mountain. The psychiatrist Carl Jung described individuation as becoming aware of the parts of yourself that were always there, beneath the surface. The shadow, the instincts and fears that shape you long before you consciously recognize them. Gauri is the identity shaped into harmony and order, but Kali is everything underneath it that still exists with enormous force. Shiva recognizes her completely, including the part she has not yet faced herself. Let's look more at the way Kali is depicted now. Kali wears a garland of 52 skulls, because there are exactly 52 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. She wears language itself around her neck. She is Vak, the primordial vibration, the sound that underlies creation. It is stated in the Vedanta Sutra that sound is the origin of all objects of material possession, and that by sound one can dissolve this material existence. Every word you have ever spoken, every concept your mind has ever formed, it originated in the force that Kali embodies. She wears it because it is hers. Before you become consciously aware of making a decision, neural systems associated with that decision have often already become active. The movement begins first, and conscious awareness arrives slightly afterwards and experiences the thought as mine. Let's put it this way. If you don't know what your next thought will be before it appears, in what sense are you truly the thinker of thoughts? Going back to the image of Kali, she stands with one foot on Shiva's chest. The colonial reading called it primitive goddess worship, overriding the sophisticated male deity, civilizational regression. But here is what the tantric tradition actually says. In Sanskrit, Shiva, pure consciousness, the eternal witness, is one letter away from Shava. Shava means corpse. Shiva without Shakti is Shava. Remove the divine feminine, the dynamic, active, creative principle of the universe, and pure consciousness becomes a corpse, inert and unmoving. Kali is not standing on a god, she is the force that makes a god alive. What you are looking at is one of the oldest philosophical ideas in India made visual, the Samkhya philosophy, the relationship between Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is pure awareness, the witness, while Prakriti is everything dynamic. One observes while the other moves, and existence happens because of the tension between the two, the yin and yang. Bhairava guarded the threshold, while Kali is the threshold. We opened with an image, a woman tearing off her own breast and throwing it at a city. Let me tell you the full story now, because you have everything you need to put the pieces together. The Shilapatikaram, the epic of the anklet, is one of the 5 great Tamil epics. Scholars place it around 2nd century CE, though its roots are older because it was carried through an oral tradition long before it was written down. It begins, as many epics do, with love. Kovalan and Kanagi are married. He is devoted to her until he isn't. He falls in love with a courtesan, Madhavi, and spends years with her, losing his wealth, his standing, and eventually everything he has. When he returns to Kanagi, he returns empty-handed, and yet she takes him back. Not out of helplessness, but a kind of love that does not depend on what is deserved. She gives him her last possession of value, an anklet. Together, they leave for Madurai, hoping to begin again. In Madurai, Kovalan attempts to sell this anklet. A royal goldsmith sees it and recognizes in it a resemblance to one recently lost by the queen. That resemblance becomes certainty. The accusation is made and it travels upwards, as accusations do, until it reaches the king. There is no careful examination, no pause long enough for doubt to enter, and the king gives the order. Kovalan is executed. By the time Kanagi learns what has happened, the act is already complete. She walks into the royal court carrying the remaining anklet, the one piece of truth left in this system that has already decided the outcome. She asks the king how her husband was judged. The answer comes easily. The queen's anklet contained pearls, and the stolen anklet too was said to contain pearls. Kanagi opens hers, and rubies fall out. It is a small but undeniable correction. The king understands instantly what he has done. Unable to bear the weight of his error, he collapsed in despair. But Kannagi's anger is not satisfied. Her husband has been wrongfully killed. She has lost everything. Kanagi tears off her left breast, she holds it above the city, and she speaks a curse, and Madurai burns. The fire that destroys Madurai is not rage as chaos. The burning city is her verdict. After the fire, Kanagi ascends to heaven, the gods receive her, and across South India, she is deified as Bhadrakali, the auspicious, fierce form of Kali, who embodies righteous wrath in defense of the innocent. She does not worship Kali, she does not pray to Kali, she is recognized by her own tradition as Kali having walked the earth in human form. The British said Kali was the patron of murderers. The oldest surviving Tamil literary tradition says something different. It says that Kali is all that remains. She is the rage that makes the world feel the truth. When the smoke cleared over Madurai, they did not name her a criminal. They built her a temple. Thank you for watching. This was part 2 on the series Gods They Buried. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.